The paintwork of the body turned out to be not too resistant to external influences and is considered a frankly weak point of this model. Small chips and scratches occurs even from a weak mechanical impact, so find a reason for minimal bargaining will not be difficult. However, owners of almost all modern cars face similar problems. On copies operated in megacities, paint may begin to swell on the hood, roof, rear wheel arches, tailgate and windshield pillars. Fortunately, dealers recognize this defect as a factory defect reluctantly and fix it under warranty. As for the corrosion resistance of the body, there are no comments so far, which means that the car has protection against the red disease. The disadvantages include the unfortunate location of the glass washer fluid reservoir, the fact that it is located very close to the front bumper on the right side, and in case of minor accident or a collision with a large snowdrift, in addition to restoring the bumper, you will also have to change the reservoir cracks. Some owners complain that it takes considerable effort to close the door. This drawback is the merit of the people who assemble the Korean crossover. In most cases, the problem is solved by adjusting the locks. The 2-liter G4KD gasoline engine is quite reliable. Besides, it can run on 92-octane gasoline without any problems. But in the case, it is necessary to adjust the valve clearance more often, every 90,000 kilometers, since it does not have hydraulic lifters, only on pre-styling version of the car. The presence of characteristic noises will tell you about the need for this procedure. Common disadvantages of this model include failures in the operation of the chain tensioner, CVVT clutch and hydraulic lifters on cars since 2013. Troubles with them can begin quite early, after 50,000 kilometers. The symptoms are increased noise. The most serious problem is the appearance of scuffing in the cylinders, may appear after 70–80,000 kilometers. Because of this, you have to change the piston. A signal about the need to visit the service will be an extraneous knock that appears while the engine is running. If the warranty is over, then the cylinder block will have to be lined, $10–15 USD. So listen carefully before buying. In the cold season, the diesel engine until it warms up at least a little, this is a common thing for this engine, which dealers call it feature. Also, cheering is considered a normal phenomenon, a feature of the operation of fuel injectors. If the whistle appears, pay attention to the condition of the air conditioning compressor bearings. Most likely, it is worn out and need to be replaced. If the spark plugs fail at low engine speeds 1000–1200, vibrations increase. Although the engine itself is not the quietest, you need to be prepared for the appearance of various sound. For example, the gas pump may begin to make various hissing sound over time. Its particles enter the cylinders and form scuffs there. The resource of catalysts is 100–150,000 kilometers. In the gas description mechanism, the only weak point was the phase shifter on the intake shaft. The problem is rare but unpleasant, since replacing the phase-changed clutch will be expensive. At the same run, there is a high probability of failure of the timing balance shafts. The disease is accompanied by increased vibration during engine operation. With proper maintenance, the motor will last 250–300,000 kilometers without problems. A more powerful power unit, G4KE/GB12, a volume of 2.4 liters. It is structurally similar to the G4KD engine. It uses the same variable valve timing system on both shafts, no hydraulic compensators, and has identical disadvantages. Solar engines attract buyers with their fuel efficiency. For example, the weakest unit paired with mechanics consumes on average slightly less than 7 liters per 100 kilometers and has better traction. In diesel power units, the weak point is the crankshaft damper pulley. As a rule, it becomes unusable at a range of 50–100,000 kilometers. A cheering appears. Replacement will cost relatively inexpensively, about $100. The glow plug relay is also considered problematic. It fails, the engine stops starting and the turbine boost pressure sensor, if it malfunctions, the check engine error appears on the instrument panel and power is lost. Problems starting the engine in the cold season may be due to poor contact, from oxidation of the wiring on the glow plug strips and the crimping points. When using low-quality diesel fuel, the pre-filter located in the fuel tank quickly becomes clogged after 30–50,000 kilometers. The problem is accompanied by a deterioration in dynamics and twitching during acceleration. After 150–200,000 kilometers, you need to be ready to replace the turbocharger, fuel injectors, and dual-mass flywheel. None of these options will be cheap. Of the minor ailments, one can know the loss of tightness of the oil pan gasket. The remaining possible troubles can be attributed to the operational features of all diesel engines, long warm-up, sensitivity to the quality of diesel fuel, etc. Hyundai ix35 Tucson was equipped with one of two types of gearboxes of its own production, 5- and 6-speed mechanics, as well as 6-speed automatic. Any of the transmissions with proper maintenance, oil change every 60,000 kilometers, will please with impressive mileage and a small number of problems. One of these is the noise of manual transmission, which in most cases can be eliminated by changing the oil. In automatic transmission, minor jerks can be bothered when charging gears. The problem is treated by flashing the transmission control unit. Rarely, but still, there are cases of failure of the gearbox switch position sensor. With this malfunction, it is not possible to change the piston of the box switch. On cars of the first years of production, the oil supply pipe to the oil cooler may not hold well. It can fly off. It is fraught with oil leakage. In all-wheel drive version of the Hyundai ix35, when sleeping, the rear wheels are connected using an electronic center clutch. It is also provided for forces locking of the clutch using the lock button located on the front panel. When the lock is turned on, this movement will be distributed between the axles 50-50. If you move at a speed of more than 30 km per hour, the first lock is turned off and the clutch works in automatic mode. As for the reliability of this system, here the owners can expect a couple of unpleasant surprises. Over time, pockets of corrosion appear on slipped joints, which significantly accelerate wear. The joint of the right compound drive shaft suffers the most. As a result, the salts are leaked. There is a backlash and a rumble. To fix the problem, you will have to replace the intermediate shaft and the inner CV joint, $200–250 USD. If the disease is not eliminated in a timely manner, the intermediate shaft bearing mount may break off. After 100–150,000 kilometers, corrosion may begin to affect the splints of the drive shaft in the transfer case and differential cup. In this case, the rear will cost $1,000. To avoid the above troubles with an all-wheel drive transmission, it is recommended to carry out preventive maintenance every 30–40,000 kilometers, lubrication of splint joints. In cars with diesel engines, due to the greater torque under heavy loads, the differential basket along the weld can begin to collapse. Two types of couplings were used on the car. GTE-KT, Japan, was installed on cars until 2011. After, Magna Steyr, Austria. Up to 100,000 kilometers, there are no serious complaints about their performance. Later failures may occur due to damage to the insulation of the wiring or wear of the brushes of the electronic motor. Also, over time, the clutch seal begins to leak. If you ignore the problem for a long time, you will have to repair the clutch. For cars manufactured before 2011, the propeller shaft outboard bearing is considered a weak point. It may need to be replaced after 50,000 kilometers. For later instances, 120–150,000 kilometers go. The problem is manifested by a hum while driving. The Hyundai ix35 has a moderately stiff and knocked-down suspension, which provides the crossover with a good level of handling at high speeds. But outside of flat roads, due to short suspension travels, the cabin shakes noticeably, which reduces ride comfort. But such a drawback can be forgiven, since the car is a typical CUV and is more designed for driving on the highway and not beyond. Independent suspension with anti-roll bars is used on both axles, in front McPherson struts, in rear multilink. Extraneous noise when driving over bumps is a feature of the suspension and is aggravated with the advent of cold weather. Often the noise is caused by loose plastic inside the wheel arches and other elements. Another source of knocking can be anthers and shock absorber bumpers. They fly off the seat, relevant for cars manufactured before 2012. You have to change on a run of 60–70,000 kilometers. The stabilizer struts run a little less, 40–50,000 kilometers. Also, the rear springs are not famous for a large resource, they sag, and shock absorbers go up to 80–100,000 kilometers. Other elements of the rear suspension can last up to 150,000 kilometers. In the front suspension, before 100,000 kilometers, only the stabilizer struts and bushings need to be replaced. They go up to 60,000 kilometers. Ball bearings and wheel bearings serve an average of 100–120 kilometers. Shock absorbers, thrust bearings and silent blocks nursed up to 150,000 kilometers. For cars with all-wheel drive, up to 100,000 kilometers, the rear arm bracket, to which the stabilizer strut is attached, may begin to collapse. Pressure sensor, because of which I had to buy a new part, and it is not cheap. There are complaints about the reliability of the steering equipped with electric power. As a rule, bushing wear out by 80–100,000 kilometers. If there is a problem, a knock appears while driving on rough roads. On some specimens, rack gears wear out on the same run. Steering tips go 70–100,000 kilometers, thrust up to 150,000 kilometers. There may be problems with the brake system. Some owners complain about the premature failure of the brake pedal switch. If the car is equipped with a keyless start system, if there is such a problem, it will not be possible to start the engine and the automatic transmission will not work either. Air duct deflectors, at times, break only from a harmless attempt to change the flow in an unheated car. You should not count on good acoustic comfort either. At first, the whistle of the stove fan begins to disturb. Cleaning and additional lubrication of the motor solves the problem. Then the crickets from the armrest are connected to the Symphony, and then the center console with the glow compartment and the trunk lid trim. The problem is solved by gluing the noise, but at the same time do not use excessive force so as not to break the plastic fasteners. You cannot ignore the front seats, which by 100,000 kilometers, in addition to having many upholstery defects, leatherette cracking, also lose their shape, crumbling driver's seat cushion filler. As for the reliability of electronics, not everything is so smooth here. After several winters, the rear view camera fails. The reason is that the connectors on the microcircuit are oxidized. For the same reason, standard parking sensors also fail. Rarely, but still, there are malfunctions in the head unit. In some instances, in the first years of life, spontaneous ignition of control lamps occurred, followed by a short-term shutdown of the instrument panel. When contacting the dealer, the tidy was changed under warranty. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.